the July 21st Board of Supervisors meeting in Mitchell County. On the agenda, the sheriff's not going to be here today. He's got a meeting. He did pass on that there's about 5 or 6 people in. The Wisconsin person was sent back now. So we'll take that off. Any other changes?
Nope.
Okay.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
All right, I just went blank. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. And how about the minutes and the claims?
I had no problem with either one, although I did notice with the claims that the sheriff's truck now is almost $35,000. It has gone up substantially from a couple of years ago. It was about $23,000 under the...
Oh, yeah.
So moved to approve.
And I shall second that.
Okay, with no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes and claims are approved. Okay, County Attorney, Mark, do you have anything for us?
I just have 2 things. The first is Barb and I met by phone yesterday to discuss that contract. I want to get a copy of the previous one just to review it to make sure it's okay. So I'm waiting to get that. But
I'll get you that,
legally
Mark.
it's okay.
I'll get you a copy of that, Mark.
Okay, thanks. And then the second thing is, I see that's on the agenda under Rich's discussion, abandonment of right-of-way. I don't have a problem with doing a specific abandonment as to a certain piece of property. You know, but the county's not going to do that. They're going to have to get their own attorney, prepare all the paperwork. My concern is, and I see this happen a lot in my private practice, is that somebody comes in, there's an abandoned street, or not, it's not an abandoned street, it's a street, it's an alley in an unincorporated town. One person says it's theirs, one person says it's theirs, and they're fighting over it and they're arguing. Well, if the county just goes in and starts abandoning those and deeding those to a property owner without notifying adjoining property owners, I don't think that's fair to the adjoining property owner, because they think, well, I own part of that, and all of a sudden we're conveying the whole street to one person rather than just half the street. And you know, they've been treating it as half and half before that. I just don't think we should do blanket abandonments without looking at each one specifically as to, you know, who's really been taking care of it, who really, you know, thinks they own it, is there a dispute with the adjoining property owner, and things like that. Also, I don't think it's a thing that, you know, the county wants to, you know, prepare the paperwork, have their attorney prepare the paperwork, I'll take a look at it, and then we can go from there. But just to start doing, you know, blanket abandonments, I don't think the county wants to get into the business of doing that. It just causes too much headaches for adjoining property owners.
Do we want
That's all I have.
Do we want to skip ahead to 8, and then you can
That's
talk about that right
That's
now,
fine.
Rich? Or just...
I think, Mark, the intent, I think, is that the individual that made the request wanted to divide it up or abandon it so that each individual, and Steve brought this up to me a
Yeah,
couple weeks
he
ago.
owns probably most of this. There'd just be a couple other.
There's on that map, Mark, did you print out that map, or can you see that map that's there?
Maybe
Yeah,
I should...
I saw it. And my concern was, what if the adjoining property owner to the east says, no, wait a minute, you know, I think half of that road or half of that is mine.
I think that would probably be the best way to solve the problem is do half and half on each.
Yeah, I don't
landowner,
think
but-
there'd be a problem with the person that wants this abandoned.
For-
I don't believe that's his intent, and he would not bat an eye on making sure that all appropriate owners that would get their half of the right of way. He's just concerned with that being used down the road by somebody else.
For those of that are wondering what we're talking about, this is concerning Dennis Conrad's 20-feet alley north of his residence, and then the 6-foot roadway
66-foot roadway.
60
to the
foot,
east,
6 foot east of his residence.
east. And what I was saying was to divvy up the right of way just for the parcels that are adjacent to his property is probably more work than just a blanket. And I know Marky had said a blanket abandonment, but I think that if there's a blanket abandonment, I think the rest of that alley going east and then, or west and then north is all under one ownership that's being crop road anyway, that would be easy enough. But I don't know, we haven't gone through many of these processes before, so I think the intent was just to divvy it up halvesies and abandon it so that they have their own parcel, so that they, I don't know that they want to
Have
take.
you actually talked to the neighbors?
I just called, the one neighbor to the north is I think a church, is it a church?
It's the church.
Church to the north, and then, the properties to the east are all related.
Right,
They're all
and
Conrad.
the east end of that road is dug out. They use that for fill, so there's no, the
Right.
road, there's no road through there anymore.
So the request just came to me, and I thought I'd bring it up for discussion to find out what process we need to go through, to abandon that. If,
My recommendation was if he wants to do that, or she, they go in, they see their attorney calls me, I can tell them what, they all need to do. As long as the supervisor are saying, yeah, we're fine with that, but the process basically is we get the request, then we have to, put it on the agenda, someone makes a motion to sell it, we have to send notice to the paper, we have to have a public hearing on the vacation and the sale, and then if this gets approved, then we do a resolution and a deed to that person. So, it's not that complicated, it's just time consuming.
right, it's a process.
A little more to it than we realize.
Oh, and, right, I realize that, and I can call him again and find out.
I don't have a problem with it if the supervisors don't, but like I said, he or she needs to contact their attorney, and their attorney needs to do the work. We're not going to do the work for them. They need to do that.
I have no problem with it as long as those procedures are followed.
I can make that call to the landowner then and, tell them to, they need to talk to an attorney and bring that to you, Mark. And they can explain you can explain the process then.
Do you guys have any more comments on that?
Well, again, making sure that landowner contacts all of the other landowners.
Yeah. You don't want to run into that trouble.
There's only 2 other people, I think, that would.
Well,
be involved.
if you're gonna go through the process, I guess I would say that alley, there's another alley north, and then there's that, alley going north and south on the west side of Mitchell Little Cedar, that probably should be abandoned, and then you can just blanket statement the whole abandonment versus a portion from here to here, and the other part still stays right away. If you look at the map, there's that, you can see where all those parcels are those.
So them up north, them haven't been abandoned already?
I don't think anything's really been abandoned.
Really? Oh, I think them people were in the understanding that was already.
Well, I mean, it almost looks like it because there's buildings within
Yes.
within the right of way anyway.
Well, like Dennis has got part of that addition of his house
Right.
on what we're talking about.
So
Now,
I'll
that's the concern.
get with that, I'll get with the landowner that requested the abandonment and forward the information to him and tell him what needs to be done.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
sounds
right.
good.
Rich, we can't start our public meeting till 8:45. You wanna go ahead and continue
Sure,
with what you've
sure.
got for us?
Well, is the county attorney done?
Yes, are you done, Mark? Yeah, he said he was, that's all he had.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I don't have anything else unless you have some questions.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
Well, the reason I came personally today was to introduce the new hire we have in secondary roads, and it sounds like he introduced himself rather well to you guys prior to the meeting, but we have Jackson Pinson here. He's gonna be, eventually taking over for Jim when Jim retires, but, kind of breaking him in this week and getting him acclimated to the layout of the county and what we're doing, so. Got any questions or anything you wanna ask him, like, go ahead, otherwise, just wanted him to see the process down here and know some faces, so.
Yeah, I look forward to spending the time, getting to work with the team and getting to hopefully provide the county the best services they can in secondary roads.
Well, welcome.
Thank
Well,
you.
do you want to give us a little background of where you studied at and so on? Where you
Sure.
work, Your
That way we can
your
tell the
work
public.
history and we'll that.
Yeah, originally from Albert Lee, just to the northwest here. Born and raised there. I went to school at the University of North Dakota, got a civil engineering degree there. Spent approximately 5 years working out in western North Dakota in McKenzie County, serving in various capacities, similar role, like assistant to the engineer role, out there working in the oil fields in North Dakota. Took an opportunity with Union Pacific last year that didn't quite pan out the way I wanted it to. There was a lot more uncertainty with that opportunity than I originally anticipated. But found this opportunity, got to sit down with Rich and have a pretty engaged, lengthy conversation about what Mitchell County's goals are and how I could fit into that structure, and kind of here I am. I currently live in Freeborn, but I've begun looking at properties in and around the Mitchell County area to try to work my way into the county in time.
Well, we're an outfit, I think, that we're kind of laid back, we're easy to get along with, and yet again, we're progressive here. They're trying to be
Steve worked
progressive.
for the county many years. My husband worked for the county many years.
It's excellent, and I appreciate that structure. I appreciate that kind of personal approachability side of it.
Yeah, it is a small rural community, and, but in some areas, we're still just as, people gotta get out just like they do in the big cities.
Absolutely.
Things are slightly more laid back, but yet you'll still find a few that will bring your ears once in a while. So,
We all have our challenges, right?
yes, but I think you'll enjoy it here.
Do you have more stuff for us?
I do. I just wanted to give you an update that our grading on Indigo has started last week. The guys started replacing some pipe, and it's not a full, it'll be a shorter stretch that has some drainage problems that we're gonna take care of. And then the paint striping will be starting soon. All the materials are stockpiled in the yard there, so I guess in the next week or two, we'll see some refreshing of the paint striping. And then the 390th paving project was complete last week, so that should be done. I think, I'd have to say it's complete, but I gotta check to see if they put the rumble strips in yet. But that's open to traffic again, so we're gonna start
They
working
were
on it.
not in this weekend, but I know.
Okay, all right. I'll check to see what's going on. And then we'll be starting to work on our projects for next year. Working with the consultant yet, trying to figure out when we can have a public meeting on Kirkwood and Hickory reconstruction projects for next year too, so. That's all I've got for you, unless you guys have some questions.
Nope.
All right,
So I have none.
okay.
Well, I think Tony's will take a little longer. Do either of you want to give, because mine will take too long for my meetings, do you want to tell about any of your meetings?
Well, Stan, if you don't, I can do,
You've got about 2 minutes, 2.5.
I'll do the Floyd Mitchell Chickasaw landfill.
Okay.
We discussed the financial statements. Everything is on track, so that was approved. We established a committee and timeline and job description for hiring a director, and there was 5 of us. I'm one of them. We're going to discussion on the bylaws. We had a decision, that was passed. We discussed on the Hall Road, all systems were go with the DNR. That was one of our big kickers, was if the DNR wasn't gonna go along with this, you know, that would not happen. We had a bid from Kroll and Wicks. We now have to bring this to the full board meeting to see if they want to go along with that. If they approve of that, we are going to see if we can do that. We discussed our LP contract, and that's going to stay with the previous company, the current supplier, IAS, out of Elma. And the leachate line cleaning bids. We had 2 bids on that, Superior Jetting and HydroClean. One was like 3 times higher than the other, so Superior Jetting is the one that's going to get the bid. That was approved. On old business, we talked about leachate and maintenance on the cat dozer. The leachate was, we're not able to go to Elma. They were not able to handle what our needs are. And again, as I discussed in the previous meeting, we dumped some of that in their sewage pond, and they found out they had fish because they floated up from it. So what we're putting in there is pretty nasty stuff. And the maintenance from CAT. This is a preventative maintenance program for the dozer, and the cost was $10,000, so we went with that. So, is that close enough?
Yes,
to 9 o'clock, Mark?
that's definitely,
All right.
8:45, we're pretty close, yes. So we're gonna open a public hearing on the proposed amendment to the Mitchell County Urban Renewal. First of all, did anyone receive any more written or oral comments ahead, besides from Al Winters, which I'll read?
I did not.
I did not.
Nothing for you, either
Just the
Lowell,
same.
other than
You
the
and I
same?
both.
Okay. Mr. Winters said that in November 2018, voters approved a new 5-member board and rejected an incumbent supervisor's re-election bid because they, the voters, wanted change. They did not approve of the way the county business was being conducted. The tax revenue from the Turtle Creek Wind Farm will not be received by the county until 2022. Determining how the new tax revenue should be used ought to be up to the new 5-member board to be elected by voters in less than 4 months. There's no need for this board to make any decision. Honor the vote from 2018. In January 2019, Mr. Jeff Heil conducted an informal meeting on urban renewal and TIF. I attended and asked several questions. One of the questions was this: what happens to the tax revenue from the wind turbines if they are not tipped? Mr. Heil replied the revenue would flow into the county's general fund and rural basic. Again, there's no need to put Turtle Creek turbines into the urban renewal plan. The county benefits from the tax revenue regardless. In fact, this would allow for the possible reduction in property tax liability for county landowners. Putting the turbines into urban renewal forces the county to take on debt, pay interest, and fees that would not be necessary. I'm going to talk about that sentence a little later. This allows the county to use full value of the tax generated. As the economy suffers from the shutdown from COVID-19 and the declining farm revenue, now would be a great time to reserve access to the future revenues for tax relief. Mitchell County already has the highest amount of property values dedicated to TIF of any county in Iowa. It's time to pause the trend and allow the new 5-member board the opportunity to assess the situation and determine the future use, if any, of TIF. Honor the vote. Okay, according to how we do this, can I, say anything about this letter now, or do I need to wait till the next, after we close the meeting?
That'll be the time.
Now would be the time, okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
how about asking the public first if they have any comments on that? Because I also want to comment on this, and I also have personal comments.
yes, yes. I really just have mine's real short. His sentence, putting the turbines into urban renewal forces the county to take on debt, pay interest and fees that would not be necessary. I have been told by, at least 3 people, that should know that that is incorrect. We would not be taking on debt. I also know that Tony's gonna talk on this too, but before Tony, you start, is there anybody else from the public, that wants to comment on this, including, listening in? Does anybody here have any comment?
So that's, whatever he wrote, that's not true, or it is, or?
That one sentence.
Just one sentence?
No, there's more than one
well,
sentence, there's more than one
that's
sentence
what
that's
I
not
wanted
true.
to address anyway, but there'll be more comments, yeah.
Yeah, I just was wondering.
Sure.
A lot of it makes sense, I mean.
Okay, Tony, you wanna go ahead and talk
Sure.
about some of this?
Well, I understand his argument as far as letting the new board do what they need to do. However, this is an opportunity at this point to be able to capture the base that exists with the windmills. As you mentioned, this does not commit the county to any new debt whatsoever. But it does add to the ability for the county to be able to have revenue to pay off debt, or in the future, if the need arises, to be able to encounter more debt. In discussing it with some other professionals in the field, to talk about the fact that if there were a major disaster in the near future, a tornado come through, major flooding, anything like that, this is ready funding for us to be able to quickly turn around and to fund any kind of relief effort that might transpire. Now, the money that comes in from TIF can only be used to pay off debt, but that includes our existing debt. So if the goal for the future board is to reduce debt, again, this is the best tool you have to be able to ensure your ability to pay off debt faster. If your desire is to be able to do more projects from a disaster recovery, this is the best tool for you to be able to do that. These are the most readily available funds to be able to do that. If you want to do economic development like we have done in the past, again, this does give you that tool. But this is a tool that board will be able to use in whatever way they think is best serve the county. The amount of money he talks about coming into the plan is reduced by what goes into the school system. The windmills do not add to the cost of running the school system. Yes, they would be a plus for the school system, but a large majority of what they're losing is coming from the state. So that's more money coming from the state into the county that we would have had otherwise. So it is a net gain for us to capture as much of that money to pay off whatever debt we have in the end. And this has allowed us to maximize the amount that we can get, because if we don't do it now and the board decides, I want to pay off debt earlier, so to do that, we would need to bring the windmills in to pay it off. The base would be elevated, so the increment would be less. So by doing this now, by bringing them in now, we're maximizing the amount of money that will be available for whatever purpose the next board has coming in, be it debt reduction, disaster recovery, or economic development. Any of those 3 will be able to be done with these funds. So if you want to do any of those 3, today is the best day to be able to do that.
I do want to go on the record of saying that I don't want to spend any more money on TIF for a while. I really don't. I'm against it. But I am for this, just for the reasons you said.
Right. And I think the one thing that people need to understand is what we're spending on TIF, the money that we have already borrowed, we still can spend. And so what I think his concern is bringing on new debt.
Which I agree, I don't want any.
And I understand, and particularly in this day and age of uncertainty, having the ability to be able to have that insurance policy I think is a very smart thing to do. Because we don't know what we're gonna be facing in the next couple of years. You know, do we have whatever kind of recovery they're talking about from an economic standpoint? I can tell you from an employment standpoint, here in the county, we are sitting in a much better position than really most of the state and definitely the rest of the country. We are in a much better position that way, but oftentimes those things trickle down much slower to us too. So we still don't know what we're looking at in the next 12 months. So having that insurance policy that maximizes the amount that we can get, if you're concerned about paying off debt, again, this is your best way of doing it because it's going to make a bigger pool for you to get funds. And that way, if things do turn south and we see a drop in land values, we see anything that comes down there, we have that cushion to be able to maintain what kind of taxes that the rest of the public is having to pay, because that money that comes from the windmills can go to help support that down the road. So we can hopefully protect people from any kind of tax increases on their properties by keeping it from the windmills. So to me, you're serving the interest of all of your citizens in the county by bringing it in and taking that money and putting it to the best use to protect their tax bill in the future. I just think it's a good insurance policy to have.
Stan, what did you want to add to that?
Basically, on paragraph 1 of Mr. Winters, he says there's no need for this board to make any decisions right now. Yes, there is a need for the same reason again that Tony just explained, that if this board does not make this decision this year, we lose 5% of the base. And so in order to capture the whole 100% of the base, we need to make that decision this year. That's the first point. And then in paragraph 2, he says, what happens to the tax revenue from the wind turbines if they are not TIFed? Mr. Heil replied that revenue would flow into the county's general fund and rural basic. The way he states that is not true. You have to have debt in order to be able to utilize TIF. You just, those funds just do not flow into general funds, general basic and rural basic.
But don't they come in later on?
Very few of them do. Because most of the funds are gonna go back to the school, they're gonna go back to the hospital, they're gonna go back to the other taxing bodies. So you get very little back into where, when we TIF something, the county gets 100% of that money. If we do not TIF it, the county gets only a small portion of that money. And so most of that money goes to other taxing bodies, and they're gonna use it for their benefits. Whereby, if we keep the money, because we've gone out and we've tried to find these industries. We're the ones that have skin in the game trying to bring these new industries into the area. And that's why the state of Iowa allows us to TIF, to give us relief, or whatever you want to call it, for bringing new industry in. And no, Steve, we only get a very small percentage of it otherwise.
But if it comes back to the hospitals and the schools, that means the state doesn't have to backfill the schools.
If the state is backfilling the school, we get more money into our area.
But somebody's paying for that money, that
I
tax backfill. It's
Well,
taxes somewhere.
You want it to go to Des Moines instead? Why wouldn't you want to protect your own area that you want to try to grow? Why do you want to give it back to Des Moines or Cedar Rapids or Waterloo?
We are paying interest to borrow that money here. We are taking on debt when we do that. And if it goes to Des Moines, it ends up back in the school. We get it back one way or the other.
We don't have as much back. No, Steve. Sorry, you're wrong.
That's an opinion.
That's my opinion, and I'm gonna stick to it.
Do you have any other
You
points you
can have
want to
your
make,
opinion.
Stan?
No, I also wanted to comment on the same point that you did, and I agree with your assessment on that part.
And then Steve, do you want to add some more?
Well, Tony's right, but in my idea, or in my opinion, and again, it's an opinion, that if we set this money ahead or do this and set up this urban renewal, that money can be used for other things that aren't being talked about right now. And that's a way for this board up here to steal from the future, cause debt, cause interest, that the public don't get to vote on. We can create a big debt up here, this 5-person board can, when it happens, that the public don't get their say-so on it.
This might be the type of thing that people want to be asking the future possible supervisors of how they feel on this very type of thing. Because if I go ahead and say yes to this, it doesn't mean that I want those supervisors to do more in TIF, and they don't have to. We're gonna end up having to put our trust in these 5 people. So that might be something voters need to ask those that are running, how they feel about this very thing.
But Steve, your comment isn't quite correct. There is not new debt for the basic taxpayers of the county. Right now, none of us right here are paying any debt into debt service. Look at your own property taxes. Lowell, is there anybody paying money into debt service?
No, there isn't.
No, there isn't.
And we haven't raised taxes,
No,
but we've raised property values.
Yes.
no, we have not raised property values.
Okay. Who's that? I didn't quite hear. Mark?
Mark Wall.
Okay, Mark.
I just want to make a comment, not as the county attorney, but as a public. This is my opinion. Steve, comments like that are what get people like Al Winters and other people's riled up. There absolutely is no stealing from the future. There absolutely isn't. And I agree with Stan when he says, you know, if the school district is getting 55% of that money, and I'm just making up a number there, what it amounts to is let's just say that's $2 million. That's $2 million less that they get from the state of Iowa. So that money's going to go to other places instead of Mitchell County. If Mitchell County tips it, they've got the $2 million to spend. Otherwise, that $2 million goes to other counties. And making a statement like we're stealing from the future is what gets people riled up. There absolutely is no stealing from the future. I'll show you the accounting. I did that sheet before where it shows how much a person is taxed on a windmill, where that money all goes, where would it go if it's tipped, where would it go if it isn't tipped. But people don't want to rely on the facts. They just want to make comments like we're stealing from the future. And that's damaging to the supervisors, it's damaging to the county, and it's damaging to everybody that's involved in this. And to make a comment like that, I just think is inappropriate. That's all I have.
Well,
Does
you
it-
have that ability to make that, but I feel that is my thought. We all have our opinions.
We
Well,
all
it's
have
your
our right.
opinion. Show me the fact that we're stealing from the future. Show me one fact that says we're stealing from the future. Then you can have your opinion. But show me a fact that we're stealing from the future. We're not.
If we borrow it, it is from the future. You're paying interest to take it. And whether we get it here or it goes back to the state, if we leave it alone, it does come somewheres.
I don't know about anybody else, but I can't hear anything anymore.
We'll have our IT person check that. Shoot, you might have to repeat.
Can you hear anything now, Mark?
Can you hear Mark?
Mark, are you there?
wanna wait until we get the
Must
sound?
we just mark one right here, fine, over here.
Okay. He thinks it's just for Mark, the rest can hear Sammy.
Okay. I'm calling you back in, so.
Enter. Please enter. The access code you entered is invalid. You entered to enable audio.
Okay, can you hear us now, Mark? Nothing yet? Okay, we're just gonna have to continue on. Does
Let's move
anybody
on.
else have any comments?
This is speaking for myself. I have a question for Tony and then I have a comment.
Steve Thompson.
If you're gonna be objective, we just voted for $15 million for NIAC. And I asked another governing body, I said, if we took, NIAC's, where they get taxes is several counties, quite a few counties in North Iowa. And I said to somebody in another governing body, and I'm just asking questions, I said, if there had been no TIF, and this is just being objective, would we have had to vote for that $15 million, or would NIAC have had that money? Because and that was the question I had. And then the question I got for Tony is, you have a frozen base, right?
Mm-hmm.
Suppose land values went down, does that frozen base stay, or does it go down with the land values? And that's just a question I have.
No, that's a fair question, and honestly, that's not something I've ever encountered where the base would drop. I think the only thing you can capture is the increment that goes up, so if the value drops, there is no increment to be able to capture. So my answer to that would have to be if the value drops, or the increment would drop.
Oh, it would. That was just a question.
Yeah, the base is the base, and so if it goes below, there's no negative payback or anything like that, but you can only capture anything that goes above the base.
But what I'm saying is, land value drops, taxes drops.
Right.
Does that base stay, the frozen base?
Right.
So then actually you're taking money away from the
No,
windmill?
like I say,
You know what I'm
there
saying?
is no negative assessment on that. The only way you can capture, so say that you got a piece of property that they're paying $1,000
Yeah.
in taxes. We add a new structure to it, like the windmills. When you establish the base, you're establishing the base at that $1,000.
Yeah.
So we're only capturing the taxation on what's up here. Say that drops, and it's all lumped together, but if that drops back down below what it was when we set it,
Yeah.
there is nothing to capture. So whatever is being paid down here continues to be paid to wherever it goes.
Well,
To
what
the
I'm saying,
schools, the hospitals, or anything like
you pay
that.
$1,000, the value drops to 800.
Right.
So does that 200, does the value, frozen value drop, or do you still have to?
No, it stays.
Okay. that's
Yeah,
it.
and so until there's anything that gets above that frozen base, there is nothing to capture for the tip,
Okay,
so,
that was just a question.
sure.
Okay.
Not one I've ever encountered before, but that would have to be the case,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good for all of us to learn that. That's good. Any other comments? Yes,
Yes,
Dave,
I was
Dave
gonna ask
Stockton.
Stan, you say it's a smaller portion that we get if we do not tip. What is that percent?
Basically, you'd have to take a look at your own property taxes. If, you take a look at your own, where I live, almost 46% of it goes to the school. I believe 14%, 15% goes to rural basic another 14–15% goes to general basic. Then the other taxing bodies get the rest of it. And so at the very most, 30% is all that is going to come back to the county.
Okay, you were talking about $2 million or something like that.
No, Mark Walk was.
Oh, Mark, okay. Anyway, let's say that $2 million coming back with TIF. If it doesn't go, if we don't go TIF, the $2 million goes to Des Moines, and then
$600,000 would come back or something like that. But we would lose 140.
the county would lose it, and then we wouldn't be assured of getting the full 2 million to our county, which would go to schools and other entities. We wouldn't be assured that that would come back to Mitchell County then. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, you said that TIF, we get to decide what to do with it. The county does.
Right.
If it goes to the state and 600,000 comes back, does the other 1.4 million come back in some other way? That's what Steve was saying, I think.
Yeah, in a way, yes,
Yes, it would go back to the hospital, it would go back to the school and so on and so forth, but that does not mean that they're going to reduce their levies at all.
Okay.
And the same with the county. The county may not reduce their levies, so that does not mean that you're going to get a tax reduction. If every taxing body keeps their levy at the same, I don't see where you're going to have a tax reduction. In order to get a tax reduction, if there's more money coming in, you're going to have to reduce the levy.
I think that would happen, wouldn't it?
No, because almost every outfit has a need for the money. And so they're not, matter of fact, that's what Jeff Heil explained. He said, you're not going to see a reduction in your taxes because there's a need for the money.
I can just tell you from experience that every agency that's out there, every taxing body that's out there has a list of projects they wish like, oh, if I only had some money to be able to do X. And it's not in a selfish way of looking at it. Rich, I'm sure, has plenty of bridges and culverts and things that, man, if I had it, it needs to be done, we're gonna do it. The hospital, the schools, any of them, there is a list of projects that we're so far behind that they, like, oh, thank goodness we finally got the funds, we can finally fix whatever needs to be done.
I understand taxes never go
that.
down. You know, they just,
Right.
they're still gonna stay there
Right.
if they have that opportunity.
Right.
That's what you're saying, right?
If they ever got all caught up, yes, then
Right.
it would go down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, and I think we've been trying to do that with our TIF funds, particularly a lot of them, you know, Rich has been able to use them for rocks and that type of thing, so we can play catch up on some of the things that we've gotten behind on. So I think we've tried to be responsible with those funds and doing it as best we can to get caught up, to do those kinds of things. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't do that, and I understand Steve's position from the tax standpoint, from a philosophical standpoint, yes, it is still our money that's coming from the state, but a lot of that is coming from the bigger cities. And I can tell you, it was a conscious vote by the legislatures. They knew that money was going to flow from the bigger cities to the rural communities by doing what they did. It was a conscious decision to do. So we're not taking advantage of that. We're not being, as far as being bad, you know. It was a conscious effort to say, you know, the bigger cities have had the benefit of the rural community for a long time. They wouldn't be in the position they are if it weren't for the sacrifices and the losses that we have incurred in the rural area. So it's only fair that some of that money from the bigger cities does come back to the rural area. And that's what this allows us to do. Again, that backfill from the state is a conscious program. They knew that was happening. Do we want to abuse it? No. But do we want to take advantage as best we can in a responsible manner? Yes. I think it's a smart thing for us to do, because that is money that we would lose if we did not do this. The schools are being compensated for some of that loss that they're encountering. The other taxing entities are not. You know, that is true. But in our case, the windmill properties are not causing any extra stress on the schools, on the hospitals. The one that they're causing probably the worst stress is on the roads. And so we are able to compensate the roads with it. Again, any of these tools that we use are just that. They are tools. And if we use them responsibly, they can be used well and good. And I think that's what we're talking about. And so by upgrading the urban renewal now, it gives the tools for whatever future board comes in to be able to use the tools to their best ability in whatever form that is, whether it's debt reduction, emergency response, or economic development, any of them. And I agree with Barb, what we're doing here is placing trust in that 5-person board that they're going to make wise decisions for the county in whatever form that is. And like Stan said, if we don't do it now, we're losing 5%. And so you're saving 5% and placing trust in that 5-person board to do the right thing with that money in that
Because
time.
it's a 20-year TIF? Is that it? That's how
No,
you
by
lose
not doing it
5%?
now, we're losing 5% of that base. The base just jumps up 5%. And so you would never be able to capture that 5% again. You're losing an opportunity
Now or
to
never,
do that.
right?
It's not, well, it's not now or never, it's now or never to get that level.
At that.
At that point, you just get less. So this, by saying we're gonna do it now, you're maximizing the amount of money that will be available for the county to use in whatever form they feel is justified.
In other words,
at
now
that
or
time.
less.
Right, yeah, it's now or less, exactly, that's probably the best way to put it.
Well, Keith, here's something else that we have never looked at, we've never discussed, but let's take a real life example right now. The city of Osage, in their budget, has just over $1 million of TIF money in their budget. If you are a taxpayer in the city of Osage, 10% of your taxes go to general basic. In other words, $100,000 of that $1 million should have come to the county. We lost that $100,000 because Osage has TIF'd our share of the monies. And so we don't always benefit on a TIF, we also lose money on a TIF. And so, again, every year from here on out, we'll be losing over $100,000 to the city of Osage. We also lose it to St. Ansgar, to Riceville, other areas. And so this is how the game gets played.
I have one more question. If you TIF it, and then the schools are backfilled, the amount they're backfilled, is that in addition to the TIF? In other words, the state is sending extra money then?
Well,
Yes,
right,
yes,
Tony?
yes, it is extra money.
Yeah,
And that's
that's
why I
what I
say, by doing this, you're maximizing the amount of money that's within the county and all the different jurisdictions. And the school's the only one that gets that.
Right.
And so, and again, it was meant to protect this, and they are the biggest recipient
So
of
without
property
TIFing,
tax.
you don't get the extra money?
Correct.
that's
Okay,
right.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, any more new comments?
I have one. So if you don't tip a windmill, where does their property tax money go? Doesn't it go into the same fund where my taxes go, which provides for the school, provides for the hospitals, provides for everything?
Yes,
Is that correct or not?
yes,
Okay.
yes, it would just go to each district,
Just like it does.
as
So
normal.
either you tip and you're borrowing, or you don't tip and it's going into the same place my
Correct.
property taxes are going.
Correct, correct,
That's, okay.
yeah. And the only other thing was that if.
So I don't know the advantage.
The advantage of is with the school, and that's where the excess
Yeah,
money
but my
comes in.
money, you're not tipping a windmill, so it's going into the general basic, a percentage of that is going to the school anyway.
Right, right. No, but so that's what I'm
The
saying.
same amount,
But the
same
same
amount of
amount,
dollars, right?
But the
Yeah.
county doesn't get the full use of the money.
yeah, when the county has the money,
But they're paying interest, so.
the excess, the money that the school wouldn't be getting, a certain percentage of that comes from the outside state. So they still have excess money, and that's what I'm saying, by doing it, you're maximizing the amount that all of the entities within the county have to spend. Because that's excess money that's coming from the state to backfill the school.
But it's the same amount of money.
Right, no, it's more money.
Why is it more?
It's more money because they're backfilling what they're losing that the county gets. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's say $10.
But if you didn't tip, they'd get it anyway.
Yes,
right.
they would,
Yes.
but then we're losing out on what the state would bring in. The state money on the backfill is excess money. It's money that we would not have
It's still
without.
taxpayers' money, it's our money.
It is, and that's why I say
You know,
from
Everything's
citizens'
free money, it ain't free.
No, it's not, but it is money that comes from the bigger cities primarily, because they are the biggest ones, ones that put into the general fund. And that's why I say it was a conscious decision when they did it. It was a way of taking money from the urban areas and getting it back out into the rural areas. And so it is extra money. There's more money that comes back to our area by tipping than without. Because with the school being backfilled,
About 45%.
But why doesn't every county in Mitchell County or in Iowa do it then? You know, why does
honestly, there are
everybody-
more and more counties all the time looking to do it because it does work.
Well,
I've had many calls from many other economic developers, okay, how did you guys make that work with the windmills? And the windmills is really the key to it. It doesn't work necessarily the same way with any other kind of TIF development. It is a new thing that really does help. And it's like I said, the windmills don't put any kind of stress on the school system. They don't put any kind of stress on the
no,
hospital.
because they get their
On
money
that,
back,
because it's outside money.
it's coming back.
Right,
Yep.
and so by that coming in, it's a plus for us. We have that outside money, outside ownership that's paying these property taxes that, you know, they're not getting hurt at all, and so the local taxpayers are getting a benefit of that coming in. And then by us tipping and putting it to uses within the county, again, the other agencies like the hospital and the NIAC, any other kind of small districts like that, they do miss out on some of that and they don't get any kind of backfill. But the backfill really is the kicker for us. When the school districts get extra money from the state, that's new funding that's coming into the state that if we did not tip, we would not get. So that is outside money. So yes, the school is made necessarily whole, but the hole that's left for the county is missing.
Yeah,
And that's
well,
where
right.
the
The
extra.
schools get the same either way.
It's not the same, they don't get a full backfill is
Well,
not
they don't get a full
100%,
backfill.
it's not
Okay, so
100%.
they don't
That's-
get-
But it
so they
is
get
still,
less.
it is still a net positive
Yeah.
when you put it all together.
Yeah.
There is more money that agencies within the county have to spend than we would had it not been tipped. So it is a net positive for us, even with the expenses of the borrowing. Even with that, it is still a net positive for the county. Again, it's a tool that as long as you're using it judiciously and with high ethics and, you know, you're trying as hard as you can to make sure it's a benefit, it can be a really good tool. You need to be really careful of how you use it. That's
Careful not to abuse it.
correct, correct.
Okay, anything else?
Well, I have one last
Okay,
comment.
last question, Dave.
Last comment, the backfilling, I spoke to the superintendent. The backfilling, as you said, is not full compensation. So I have another conference that I'm gonna have possibly with her, and she's going to explain her part of what the school feels about TIF. And
She's acted supportive in the past, she's been to meetings and she didn't speak again.
I'm not saying she's against it, I'm not saying, she's just going to, she feels they don't get a full backfill, and so
Well, we don't.
there's
Right.
some
No,
complications.
there's no question that they don't. But
But do they get the amount of money they would have gotten anyway, counting the money that comes from?
in the short run, no, because like I said, the backfill is not 100% of what was there. However, the county misses out on a lot of funding when it comes, if you don't.
But the school does miss out on something.
They miss out on some. But again, the development we're talking about is not putting any extra stress
Okay.
on the school.
Stan?
But keep in mind that if the county wasn't out trying to solicit these businesses, and we did try to solicit the windmills and that, if we never got them here in Mitchell County, there's no extra money coming to the school anyway. There's no extra money going to the hospital anyway. There's no extra money going to NIAC anyway, unless we bring industry into the county.
understand that.
And so this is a bonus for them. They wouldn't have got this money at all if we aren't soliciting for new business.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand that, I'm not against that, but I'm saying that everything doesn't actually turn out.
But they're not losing anything because they never had it. They've never had it. I mean, they're gaining.
Okay, I think we should wind this up. We're kind of starting to repeat some of our stuff. We need to close
that
this
public
meeting.
hearing. Yep.
Close the public meeting at, looks like
9:24.
9:24. And then we'll go to number 6, resolution to declare necessity and establish an urban renewal area pursuant to section 403.4 of the Code of Iowa, and approve the urban renewal amendment for the Mitchell County Urban Renewal Area. Do I have a motion?
So move.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? Roll call. Stan?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Steve?
Nay?
The resolution is approved. Okay, let's go on to number 7, an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on the taxable property in the 2020 addition to the Mitchell County Urban Renewal Area pursuant to section 403.19 of the Iowa Code, the Code of Iowa. Okay, motion on this ordinance.
So move.
Second by myself.
No, hold a second.
Okay, go ahead.
You have an ordinance, you have 3 readings.
Oh, okay, so we have 2 more times, are you saying?
Well, you have an option, you can have today as your first reading, put it on next week's agenda for the second. You can go 3 weeks, or you can, next week, if you have it next week, you can,
Combine them
combine
both?
that, or
As
you
long as
can,
we
today,
tell
you
them.
can waive the first and 2 readings and pass the
Correct.
ordinance for the third.
Auditor Tesh is correct. I should, I would move that we waive the first and second reading.
Okay, and I would be fine with that, because everybody knew about this ahead and gave their opinions. So I would be fine with that, and I will second that. And then roll call, Stan.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Steve?
Nay.
Okay, that ordinance is approved.
No, that's
No.
just waiving the first and second readings is approved.
Oh,
Correct.
okay, I'm sorry.
So now you gotta go to the third final reading.
Which is now
The
or
ordinance,
next week?
That's,
which is the
it's
ordinance.
now, because you just waived the first and 2.
Gotcha. Okay, all right.
So
now-
I'll so move.
Okay, and I will second that, and we'll call Stan.
Well, I should ask for discussion.
Okay, further discussion? Okay, Stan,
Aye.
myself, aye. Steve?
Nay.
Okay, that ordinance is finally approved. Okay, we've already done the county engineer. We need to approve commercial incentive program applications, number 9. Tony, do you want to discuss that a little?
In the past, we've done them all together, so you can do it each your way you want. These are all, I believe 3 spec homes and 1 is a rental, 1 being a renovation of apartment complex above the CCI flooring. They will be gutting the entire upstairs and redoing, putting in some nice modern apartments. So I think that's definitely one, it's a very good project. The other are spec homes, and but they fit all the criteria established by the board, and they were all approved in our meeting, and so we're asking for your approval on those to go ahead.
One of them is actually in each town, we'll say St.
Yeah.
Anne's, Riceville, and Stacyville.
Yeah.
Because they do hit the criteria, I will be voting for this, but I still want to go on the record as that I really have still wanted to see changes in this program. In particular, I would like to see that not the same people can keep receiving this. I feel very strongly about that, and I hope that somebody can get it changed, because I haven't apparently at all. There are some new people on economic development that I think might be open to it, so this is kind of my message to the new supervisors. That there are a lot of people that complain to me, that the same people are getting this and they feel like it should be spread out more. Or helped in some other areas, maybe some smaller areas of renovation or that kind of thing, but anyway.
Chairman,
Yes.
Francis, but it's been open to everybody in the county for 3 years. And if these other people don't
I
wanna
know
take
that's-
advantage of it,
I know that's a point, but I still,
I mean, you can't force people to take advantage of something. You know, you can lead a horse to water,
that's why
but you can't
maybe
make it drink.
maybe this needs to be changed.
Well, how are you gonna change it to where,
There's many different ways that you can think about and discuss. I just know that there are too many people complain to me about it, so I would like to see some changes.
but then they should have an alternate on how to make the change, and you know.
Yeah, well, I can't really seem to get people to discuss it.
No, but I mean, just to
economic
complain that I
development.
don't like something,
Well, things that have been brought up, Tony, what all have we brought up? We've talked about,
We have talked about a number of different
Yeah.
things to change the, probably one of the reasons we have such a limited pool of people that are willing to take the project is because of being a spec home. A spec home still, you have to take on a certain amount of risk to do that. So it's only gonna be builders that have a certain amount of capital that can put it at risk. Because it's still, we're only paying out at the sale of the home. And so if it were to not sell within the time frame, then they miss out on the incentive. So they have to be able to carry that possibility of loss. Whereas a smaller developer and that's why the whole idea of doing spec homes, because there is a level of risk. And so only the bigger ones can say, okay, you have now removed enough risk for me that I am willing to go ahead and build a spec home. And so, but that's the only ones that are still willing to do it, because there is that level of risk. And that's why you have so few that are willing to do it. A lot of the builders that look at it, it's like, I'm still not willing to take the risk to build a spec home. And that's why there's not very many wanting to use it, because there is still risk to do it, so.
I don't have it specific in my mind, what all needs to be changed. I have ideas, but something needs to be changed so that more people are utilizing it.
Right. And so one thing we've talked about doing more of was the renovation,
Yes.
those types of things. And we've talked about doing things outside of just spec homes as a possibility, making them smaller to allow for more renovation, or just down payment assistance, just different things like that, because I think the perception people have when these nice homes are being built is that the people getting the benefit don't necessarily need the money. This program is not based on need.
That is a very high complaint.
Yes, this program is built on establishing tax base and providing a commodity to the market that would not be there were
Which
it
it
not
has
for.
done.
Correct.
It has been great for the tax base.
And I think, but
It
that's.
accomplished that, yes.
Right. That's been the problem with the program, is people have a misperception of what its purpose is.
Its original
Its purpose is not necessarily to help low-income people, it's to establish commercial activity and to provide a housing, part of the grand scheme of things in the housing market that would not be there if it were not for the program. Because there is still need for that's there, but the risk for a builder to build those is higher than they're willing to take. And so that's what this was for. Again, this was not built on helping people with need, it was about filling a niche in the housing market that was not being filled.
And I realize that was not the original intention, and
Right.
most people don't seem to understand
Right.
that. And that has been accomplished, but I would like to see, I just think it's a plus even for economic development, that houses that look like crap around here and aren't even rentable, if they're able to improve that
Right.
so that it is rentable and it looks better for anybody driving through,
Right.
I think is a big deal. That's all economic development too.
Well, that was one reason I brought up the one application that we have, because it's an existing housing stock that is in bad condition.
I'm excited about that.
And so it's definitely gonna bring up the level of housing available to people. And, in the meeting last night, the owner even commented that one of his current renters is already on the list and wants to move into one of the new apartments, the first one that comes on. So we're not even, there's no, what's the term I'm looking for? No gentrification taking place in this instance either. You know, people that are in Florida are not being pushed out. They're able to then move into the nicer, newer apartments that are gonna last for the next generation. So this program is helping with that. And I think on the rental side, that's probably been the biggest plus for this program. We've added a lot of really nice quality rental units but with this program, and I think that's been a great addition.
I do too.
Because I hear that time and time again from people coming in, you know, people come in to take a job with any of the number of manufacturers in the area in middle management, upper management, and they come in and there's just no opportunities for rent of any quality. And so I think we've gone a long way towards rectifying that. A lot of nicer apartments, nicer homes and stuff like that that are available now for rent. And our employers have been working with landlords even prepaying for rent for their employees to come in and give them that buffer that they know they're gonna have a nice, clean place to be able to move into while they're looking to build or to buy. So that is really definitely filling a need going forward. I get and I understand the complaints that people have, and I'm sensitive to that as well. And I respect and understand and agree with a lot of your comments that we need to tweak and work with and make better. And it's like I said earlier to you guys too, the tool is there. We just need to use it that's the biggest benefit for as many people as possible, that we go forward with it. So I understand where everyone is coming from.
Well, keep in mind that under the housing program, every 12.5 years right now, the tax money comes back to the various taxing bodies.
Well, that's why I said
And
it's
so,
accomplished.
it's actually a revenue producing thing. So in 25 years, it's doubled. In 50 years, it's 4 times. The money keeps coming back. Where I get a problem is if we're going to start doing cosmetics, where cosmetics don't generate any additional revenue, any additional taxes. I don't want to be part of that type of thing to where we're just, like you say, doing cosmetics without a revenue source.
Yeah, I understand 100%. I would argue that sometimes what we call cosmetic is not necessarily cosmetic, it's more about maintenance too. Now, I'm not saying I want to use this for people to paint their homes or anything like that. But when you're looking at a major renovation and somebody has let deferred maintenance on a house go and they let a home go for a lower rate, you know, somebody's still going to have a major expense to do a foundation lift, to have to replace all the windows and different things like that. There is still major expense that has to go in. But if you do that, then you still have a structure that's going to continue to be a revenue generator for the county as well. If you don't, then it becomes a drain and you're losing tax value by not.
That's where, between the two of you, you need to find that happy medium.
Yeah, and then I think that there has to be that meeting in the middle of how much maintenance do you support and how much new. I agree, I understand, and I don't want to go to the extreme of paying for every bot of upkeep. People still need to be responsible for that, but when you get a structure that's beyond that, but it's still at that point, if you put money into it, it's still going to be a good asset. You know, I think we're money ahead by not having to replace all of that.
That it could be appraised.
Yeah, we can protect tax base at the same time, and it still has that same benefit. Otherwise, it continues to drop. So it's not as big a bang for your buck, so to speak, but in the long run, you're still making good use of the assets that are already there to maintain them for the longer haul. If you put some money back into a structure that's going to add 20 to 30 years, then you're still going to get that valuation over time. So there has to be a happy medium.
I think that could be achieved.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, well, I will go ahead in saying all this, even though I want some changes, that I make the motion to approve the commercial incentive applications, these 4 applications. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, they are approved. Okay, meetings attended. Steve, did you have any more before I start mine?
Yeah.
Okay.
North Iowa Juvenile Detention. Call to order, had a quorum, no public comment. Discuss the financial report for the end of fiscal year 20. That was approved. We had a detention report, total of 197 units in the last 7 months. There was a couple of confrontations through 2 of them. One was a stabbing, he was arrested. One was moved for abuse. Anyway, he's getting back.
When you say moved, Steve, do you mean moved out of there or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a crisis center report. We have a total of 843 people in the last 6 months. We had a subacute report. Just move on that one. Personnel, they discussed about Sam getting a raise. He hasn't had a raise. So they're going to do an evaluation on him and give him a raise. Also discussed nursing positions. They need nurses, they need help, they need more nurses, and they're looking to make IPERS as part of their package. With this, they're going to have a shift and a weekend differential, and it's hard to find nurses on the weekends, and would help the current staff.
That'd be nice if they could get IPERS.
They want to give a little more of an incentive, but they didn't want us to specifically say for sure. But may do up to $1 an hour increase, making that more competitive with the other jobs in the area that they may be able to get somebody in there. Buildings and the grounds, we had a discussion on the blacktop. It's $21,000 to finish what they have got going there. Moving on, they reviewed the claims of April, May, and June. That was approved. Access services update. This is working with law enforcement. And the reason they want to do that is so that when law enforcement brings somebody in, is somebody that they can handle. They need law enforcement to understand who they can accept, and who they can't. And then the last thing discussed was regarding the sale of the North Iowa Juvenile Detention Center. They had been approached by a private entity to take over. We'll leave it as is and have the same people, but the idea of it was set up so that all the counties, and that's who's all involved, Alameda, Blackhawk, Bremer, Buchanan, Butler, Cerro Gordo, and when you get the picture, this is a county facility, and the idea of the counties maintaining this was to keep costs down. And if it goes to privatization, it won't be cheaper. It will cost more. So basically, we just, the board the board members said, no, this isn't gonna happen. And so we're gonna stay in control of it, and they're going to send this individual company, this letter stating, we're going to keep it as is, we're gonna stay in control, keep our costs down. So, with that said, my
Okay.
meeting is over.
Okay. Stan, do you have something you wanna?
I had no meetings, I did have to go down to Mason City to the COG and sign some papers for T21, but that's all I had.
Okay, the Conservation Board, Stan, you were,
Manure management?
I was doing my meetings.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I have several.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Stan was not able to go to the Conservation Board meeting, so I went and met with Adam and several area farmers, including property owners, for almost 2 hours. And for a question and answer period concerning a possible wetland project on 80 acres near the old care facility site. The rock bottom berm would have a 3-foot opening with levels of water less than a foot up to 5 feet, with the purpose of wildlife and water quality, increasing the diversity of wildlife and plants. 2 men were brought in from the Corps of Engineers to help answer questions, emphasizing that this is only a prospectus at this point, not an actual done deal project. All property owners expressed their concerns, which were no tile in spots, culverts not being large enough, trust issues in not feeling that they were informed well, runoff from 4,000 acres flowing through there. The bottom line is that they are concerned it will cause more flooding, jamming of corn stalks and debris, and will not be notified of what's all's going on. The engineers told the audience, which also included Jim Weary from the Mitchell County Road Department, that they have much more to check out, including changes with the weather even, taking into consideration 4 to 5 inch rains. And Adam ended the meeting with a promise of that he and his board were not going to go through this project unless they were sure it would work. It'll go through various government agencies for approval. And a noted addition, the project would pay for itself down the road if it should go through.
Not only pay for itself, wouldn't it be a revenue generator?
Yes, very possibly, yes. Board of Health meeting. They are still are still holding the COVID tests at the fairgrounds. During the fair, they'll still be doing it, which is mostly 4-H as far as the fair this year. It's not the full fair, except they won't be doing Fridays, which they haven't been doing. They have averaged 62 tests a day, with up to 148 one day. Gloves are changed for each person. Their COVID kits actually come quite quickly. We got a $17,000 CARE Act package, but it must be used strictly for COVID stuff. Public health, our census is up to 86. It was 73 as of June 1st. They put in for a grant for mass vaccinations to be prepared for next year. We'll be getting 250 free vaccines, but they're just not sure when they'll come. Being free, you can't say, and so it could be from November through December, who knows. Immunizations are down though right now due to the COVID fears. Let's see, the cost of outside wound care nursing services have gone up substantially. So we are going to see if our nurse, it can be arranged that she takes care of this and we don't have to bring somebody in from outside. County Social Services, HR committee I had in Waterloo. We have received 120 plus, and there's a ton more now, applications for Bob Lincoln's position. And we'll continue to accept them until August 24th. Megan Teets had started narrowing them down for the committee, and we started peeking through them. We will narrow them down to 5 eventually to interview possibly late August. She's going to start sending an email. I see I got one yesterday. Last night I haven't had a chance to look through it. We discussed how to handle employees traveling, and we will ask them to work from home for 2 weeks. This is talking more with your COVID stuff. We talked about employees resigning. One was extended due to the time needed to transfer guardianships, and the other will not be replaced at this time. iStart employees are the only on-call employees we have, and some complications came up with pay questions over the holidays. Requests were denied at this time because they are not in the employee manual, but that could possibly be changed in the future. Last night we had an economic development meeting. Tony applied for, and we were the recipients of the Gold County Seal Award for being a success for Iowa's homegrown wind energy industry. We'll be recognized at a virtual press event in August. It'll be accepted by Tony or I. We approved construction applications. We talked about that already earlier. Tracy updated us on the FEMC's disaster relief fund. There will be less due to the casino closing, but right now you can get up to $7,500 possibly. I think that might be combining a couple things. Anyway, they award in October. And only Al Winters accepted to attend the 2-day Iowa Rural Development Summit. I had attended last year and would have went again, but I have something else going on during that time period, and you guys, I know, decided that you didn't want to attend. And I'm done. So, let's go on to our manure management updates. Lowell, please.
Okay, you have Blum, North Finisher Farm, 4698 Shadow Avenue, Stacyville. Happy Pork Incorporated, 2344 10th Street, Osage. Hogville Corporation, 4147 Hickory Avenue, St. Ansgar. ProNet Farms Incorporated, 4950 Primrose Avenue, Stacyville. And Tucker Finisher Farm at 3024 State Line Street, Riceville.
I see we got an email about timber finish farm confinement buildings. Well, they were built according to this in accordance to the DNR rules. Thank you, Lowell. Conservation Board appointment. Was Adam going to talk about this a little, or do we just go ahead with this?
Basically, I got a notice from John Coster that due to family issues, he could no longer, or was not willing to serve any longer on the board. And I believe he gave notice to Adam. Is that correct, Adam?
He did call me and say that he is going to officially resign.
So, with that, we've had a board member in previous that was a very good board member. I think Adam would agree. I would like to nominate Jim Overfall again to the County Conservation Board to fill out John Coster's term.
And
so it wouldn't be a 5-year term, it would be just filling out
to
the...
finish it up.
Finishing
and
up.
What's he got left? Does anybody know
I
offhand?
think it's a year.
I think he's right.
Next year.
Sure. Okay, and then where is Jim from?
Jim's from Osage here.
Okay.
But no, he was a very good board member. Is that correct, Adam?
Yeah, Jim was on for 10 years and has stayed in touch and wants to get back on, I know, so.
Oh,
He was
excellent.
always reliable and very interested in the board.
That sounds great. Do you wanna go ahead and make a motion for
So
that then?
moved.
Second, I guess I don't know the fellow, but
Yeah,
I'll
no,
second.
everything sounds really good. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you've got your fill-in, appointment done. All right, any public comments?
I will. I received a message from Joe Myrie, who's listening in. Point of clarification, since we did have unanimous to waive the readings, you can't do that to go to the final. So next week, we'll have to put it on again for the second reading.
Okay,
You have to have a 3/4 vote, and for a 3-member board to do that, you need to have unanimous.
all right,
So I will put it on the agenda for next week.
okay.
Wasn't aware of that.
Thanks for keeping
I
us
wasn't
legal,
for sure
Joe.
either, so.
Okay, and then when we have this, will we have to have a third one if we don't have unanimous to,
Correct.
okay,
Correct.
okay, all right. Any other public comments?
Oh, I have something.
Did
Okay,
Oh, go ahead.
Mike spoke up first, just a
Oh,
second,
okay.
Steve.
I'm just going back to number 9, approve commercial incentive program applications. Can I ask who the applications were for?
Yes.
And what the benefit was to them?
Sure, you sure
I mean,
can.
it wasn't mentioned, so I,
Yep. We've got CCI flooring. That was the one that he's doing apartments upstairs. Gonna redo those. I'm actually really excited about that.
and what's the benefit,
With the project cost was 280,000. His benefit is 80,000.
80.
And then there was Brian and Tori Steinberg. This is H&S Construction Incorporated. The total cost is 375,000, and their amount is 30,000.
And that's a spec home,
Yes.
375, seems like that. A large amount for a spec home.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, that's why people think there's something wrong with this program.
Yeah, well,
I
and,
won't go into that, but that's fine.
no,
Keep going.
and I'm with you on that. That's
Yeah,
why I would like to
yeah,
see some
so I do
changes
agree
too.
with you on that, yes.
But according to how they have it now,
Yep,
it qualifies.
yep.
Let's see. Jim Lohas,
Jim Lohaus,
yeah, Lohas,
Yep.
okay, is that how you pronounce it?
yeah.
284,000, and this is for the one in Stacyville, 30,000.
Okay, that's a duplex, I believe, right?
Well, no, this is new construction
Yeah,
spec.
I think it's a split. I know.
I don't think this one's the
Okay, maybe it's not, maybe it's something else.
And then he also has one for Riceville, 280,000, 30,000.
Okay. That's more realistic.
And that says spec home too. And then Tim and Shaylee Schultz, 350,000, 30,000. And that is it. Go ahead, I
One
decided to
more
throw
question.
those in at the last minute.
When this stuff goes on like this, why is in the minutes of the meeting, there's never no number, you know, like it just says housing incentives were
Well,
taxed.
there-
People have to wonder, what happened, you know, what is that?
There's so many details as far as the minutes that if we said
I mean, if you have names
everything,
and
the
dollars,
minutes
go
would
with
be
them.
pages
That's
and
all.
pages. Do you have an
Yeah.
answer for that, Nicole?
I just wonder, because,
No, it's a good point.
yeah, because, you know, I've had people ask me, what is this incentive, you know, what's?
Well, you can always call,
They can always
pull
call
up and
in.
ask,
Yeah,
Well, you should
But
call
does
them
he
county
make you
development,
you don't want
because
to-
they're the ones.
yeah, or call Tony
Because sometimes
directly.
they're not even mentioned during the meeting, and they should be.
Yeah, that's what I say, the numbers and the names are never, like, I've asked this
Oh,
question before.
okay, so would you like to see those in the future?
Well, I think everybody, the
Specified?
public wants to know, I
Oh, well,
think,
we
you
could
know,
do that.
you know,
I don't know why we can't.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, that's, people have asked me, and I've asked them.
well, that's not a problem.
Sure, no problem, yeah.
I just, you know.
I'll make sure that
sorry,
gets
I-
done.
think the public needs to be informed,
Mhm.
because this is TIF money, I assume, too, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
from that, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll make a, and I'll mention that to Tony too.
Yeah, I just,
Okay, any other comments?
I have a question.
Steve.
You probably said this and I didn't catch it. Where's the COVID testing moving from, or has it moved because of the fair?
Because of the fair, no, they are staying there.
They're gonna stay there during the fair?
But they aren't by them at all, it's just the 4-H, they're over in completely different areas. And this, the way they have it set up now, they drive into that big, what they used to be,
4-H building.
yeah. 4-H won't be in there at all,
I know, but you got kids on.
but they won't be anywhere close.
yeah, the people don't even get out of their car.
Yeah,
The people
did
don't
you
get
know,
out of
they don't get out of the
No, they
car?
don't get out of the car. We all had to
Did you
go.
realize they don't even get out of the car?
But I interviewed somebody and they said that the COVID testing would not be on the grounds.
No, I asked specifically public health.
Yeah. I know, but somebody from the fair, on the fair side said it wouldn't be there.
Oh, somebody from the fair? Well, then they better discuss with each other.
Yeah.
Because I was told by public health that they will
I was
definitely be
curious.
there, except not on Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, meeting adjourned.